is Pashas Nachamu, which is a very, very interesting idea. It's called Shabbos Pashas Nachamu, and of course, in the Yiddish Welt, now is time for vacation. Mahal Sof August, vacations are there. I said, Baruch Hashem, began in Tisha BiAv. What's today's date? I'll tell you in a moment. The Shoin Zog is August 15th. Tomorrow is Tisha BiAv. It's a sites again vacation. All the hotels are booked, all the camps are booked, and they charge time in a leg, arm in a leg. Again, noch Tisha BiAv Muslim game vacation. You don't go vacation, it's a shalaf ya'yid b'chol. But okay. And from this pasha till the end of the year, we have a change in the haftarahs. I've explained this to you many times, that the haftarahs that we read, were started after the minig of kriyas HaTorah, right? The inyan for reading the Torah is that kind of 3 times a week you should read. And when the goyim, and we're not sure which goyim, and we're not sure when it happened, either in the time of the second Beis HaMikdash or after the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash, outlawed the reading of Chamisha Chumshei Torah, the Chumash. So the Chazal instituted to read Navi instead of the Chumash. As I explained to you many times, that's why the Haftarah has 21 psukim. Because 7 aliyahs, and each aliyah must be a minimum of 3 psukim. As they did, it's 21 psukim. And 7 brachas. Haftarah has 7 brachas. I'm not sure how the 7 brachas works, but that's the fact. The 7 brachas connected to the Haftarah. So we start saying Haftarahs. And the Haftarahs me'ein pasha. Let's do with the Pasha Shavua. Whenever you read 2 kriyas or 3 kriyas, let's say it's Rosh Chodesh on Shabbos, or it's Chanukah, or it's Shkolim, or it's HaChodesh, or it's Simchas Torah. So what you do is you read 2 Sifrei Torah or 3 Sifrei Torah, and then the Haftarah reflects not the Pashas HaShavua, but it reflects the time of the year. In other words, when Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh, like it's going to be next week, we're going to read, actually next week is an exception, but usually you would read Hashemaim Kiseh, you'd read the Haftarah of Rosh Chodesh and not the Haftarah of the Shabbos. You understand what I'm saying? So every week we read a Haftarah, which is connected to the Pasha. And the Rambam actually tells us what Haftarah you read for each Pasha. Fact of the matter is that we don't do that. The 10 last Shabboses of each year, the 10 last Shabboses of each year, which means the 3 Shabboses before Tisha BiAv, and the 7 Shabboses after Tisha BiAv, we supplement the regular Pashas HaShavua with Pashas, with Haftarah that has to do with the time. The 3 weeks before Tisha BiAv we read Shleisha de Pura Nusa, the Musar Haftarahs, and the 7 after Tisha BiAv are called Shiva de Nechem, the 7 Haftarahs of Nechama, of consolation. And it turns out that these Haftarahs are very short. There's no 21 psukim in any. They're very short. So the 21 psukim was a little bit forgotten along the way. Ashkenazim are more careful about 21 psukim, but in these Haftarahs you have one of them are very short. And then Necham, this one is called Nachamu Nachamu Ami. And then you have Anochi Hu Menachemchem, Batei Metzina Zavani Ad Hashem, and so on. You have say also about the Shem Togel Na'avshi Belekoi. You have 7 Haftarahs of Nechama. And this week we read Pashas Nachamu. Nachamu means that the Eibishter consoles. So I'm sure you've heard the Vart the Rebbe brings, that every inyan of Geula is kafel. Every inyan of Geula, any idea associated with Geula is double. Like pocket, pokadati, pay and pay, pocket. Every inyan of Geula is double. And there's 5 examples of it. Lech lecha, I think. There's 5 examples where a lashon of Geula is double. And one of the inyanim of Geula, which is double, is Nachamu Nachamu. You say 2 times Nachamu. And I want to explain it a little bit, okay? By giving you a different example. And that is that one of the 7 Haftarahs of Nechama we say, Anochi, Anochi hu menachemchem. Anochi, Anochi hu menachem. I am consoling you. And you also have a different Haftarah, Anochi, Anochi hu moiche pshoecha lamani. I am wiping away your avedas. So it's brought in Chassidus as an interesting thing. Well, the Eibishter gave us the Torah, as we read this week, it is Anecha Hashem Alekach. It's only once Anechi. When it comes to Nechama, when Hashem is consoling the Jews, and when it comes to Tshuva, when Hashem is allowing the Jews to return to Him, it says twice Anechi. Anechi, Anechi hu menachemchem, and Anechi, Anechi hu meicha pshech. So Chassidus explains that Anechi goes on Kesed. That means that the idea of Anoichi is the revelation of godliness on a level which is above the name of the Eibishter. But Kesed has two levels, a lower level and a higher level. And the double Lashon Anoichi goes on Pnimiyas HaKesed. And the Rebbe explained that when the Eibishter gave us the Torah, the Eibishter wrote himself into the Torah. He wrote himself into the Torah. And therefore, it says in Chassidus that the source of Torah is from Ein Sof, higher than Hashtalshlus. But the source of Geula, the source of Tshuva, and the source of Nechama is even higher than the source of Torah. By Torah it's only one time Anoichi, and by Nechama, and by Geula, and by Tshuva it says two times. And this is the significance of Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. The Eibishter says two times Nachama. Two times the Eibishter is consoling us, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. And the reason the Eibishter says a double Lashon of Nachama is because the Koyach for Nachama has to come from a higher place. In other words, when things are good, everybody's happy. When things are bad and you have to fix them, that's a much more difficult task. And it has to come from a much, much higher place. You follow? When things are good, so you walk straight, everything is wonderful. So you can afford, so to speak, it should come from a lower madrege. When you have to repair a wrong, it doesn't matter whose fault it is, doesn't matter, it's everybody's issue, it's everybody's problem. When you have to repair something which is not good, you have to go to a higher shadish. And this is why you have a double lashon. Geula is always double because it has to come from a much higher place. Because it's not simply about giving us something good, it's about repairing this that's not good. And this is one of the significance, is one of the messages of Shabbos Nachamu. It's the Shabbos after Tisha BiAv. We had 3 weeks of tshuva, which is what the 3 weeks are. 3 weeks are weeks of tshuva, and the fasting is Les'eda for tshuva, like it says in Rambam, and that's why we finish off the Haftarah. Tziyim b'mishpat tipada v'shaveh b'tzedakah. Right? The Eibush is not interested in our crying. He wants us to do tshuva, and he wants us to give tzedakah. And afterwards comes Nechama, the Geula that the Eibush brings us. And this is why he says Nachamu, Nachamu double. This is another point. Another aspect of our Pasha, read Pashas Nachamu. And lastly, another thing that I want to mention, of course, is that Shabbos is Tisha BiAv. I believe that I already announced, Ariella, that Sunday Mitzvah, the third hour, if I'll remember. So Blinede will bring in the Gemara, the Yankiv. Instead of our regular Yankiv, we'll preempt it. And we'll learn in Yankiv connected to Tisha BiAv. The Mishnah and the Gemara, the end of Masechta Rosh Hashanah. I did it last year. And I'm sorry, the end of Masechta Tainis, and we'll do it again. The Gemara which speaks about the Eve Chamishas BiAv. But today I want to mention the Nekud they had. Today I'll mention the point, and with Hashem's help on Sunday we'll develop this point. We'll elaborate on this point. The point is as follows: that everybody knows that the Jewish people are linked to the moon. We're connected to the moon. The Lashon Chazal is Yisrael, Moinin Levana, and Daimin Levana. We count according to the moon because we are compared to the moon. The Jewish nation follows a lunar calendar because we have a connection to the moon. What do we know about the moon as opposed to the sun is that the moon cycles. It's not always the same. Sometimes it's big and sometimes it's small, sometimes it disappears altogether and then it's reborn. But it's always reborn. The Jewish people are compared to the moon. Parenthesis. Agav, you of course know that we don't only count according to the moon. We count according to the moon and according to the sun and according to the mazalas, the tkufas, the seasons, and the mazalas. Our calendar is complicated. It incorporates into it various aspects: the moon and the sun and the seasons and the mazalas, the constellations. Because the Eibishter wants that our Yiddishkeit should be connected to the time of the world, not just to the time of the Jew, but to the time of the world. And that's why we have a leap year and all these other fancy, complicated issues. But fortunately for us, all you got to do is buy a calendar and you're an expert. Somebody else has to be a god and sit with a computer and figure out how to make a calendar. And all we have to do is go to the store and buy the calendar. We know what to do. But that's how our calendar is fixed. It basically follows the moon, but it doesn't follow the moon only. It follows a variety of different contributing aspects. Anyway. So the reason we follow the moon is because we're Mainin Daiman, which is why the idea of the 15th of every month is considered a good omen. The fullness of the moon is a positive thing because it shows the fullness of Klal Yisrael. That's why so many special events are connected to the 15th of the month. Sukkot, Sukkot, right? The Rebbe's anniversary, for those who haven't noticed, yeah. Tu B'Shvat, Purim, Pesach Sheni, sort of, it's close enough, right? And then of course Tisha BiAv and Tezvav Elul. These are all the middle of the month, because there's something very, very special about the middle of the month. The moon is full. It's a good time. It's a blessing for Yidden when the moon is full. The moon is full is a very, very positive time for Klal Yisrael. Kaima Siyar Rav Shlomo when the moon is full. Aga, there's an interesting story with Nalton Rebbe. I've shared this with you before. I know I've shared it with you before, but the repetition doesn't hurt anybody. That the Alter Rebbe had a sefer. In the officially the case in the Beruven sefer, maybe he had more than one sefer. The Alter Rebbe had a sefer. Alter Rebbe had a scribe, who was apparently a big chassid and a gavaldik Yirei Shamayim. And the Alter Rebbe trusted him with his stam, sefer Torah, Tefillin, mezuzos. This was a special sefer. But the Alter Rebbe stark falos. Alter Rebbe had tremendous ne'emonos, tremendous trust in his sefer. A story in a story, right? A digression within a digression. The Alter Rebbe once in the afternoon lay down. In the afternoon, the Rebbe lay down. It says in Svarim, the Shinas HaTzoharayim, said to Mishnah, you don't sleep by day. I know a Jew who told me that he's a very big masmid. He's a big Rosh Yeshiva, against a Talmud Chacham, against a Lamdan. And the Rebbe told him once, but talk sich nicht zulegen. Now from the time you go to wake up, time you go to sleep, I don't care how many hours you sleep at night, by day you don't lay down to the sun. But it says in the Rishima, the Rebbe Shabbat sich yot zugelegt, but talk. But in any case, from what I understand, by day you don't sleep. But the Alter Rebbe lay down in the afternoon. He lay down, and they heard that his bed was making maneuvers. You could hear from outside the room that his bed was moving. It sounded like the Alter Rebbe was moving his bed around. What happened? The Alter Rebbe lay down, and the bed Poshet started to travel. The Alter Rebbe came running out of his room. He says, "Geh, ruf Ruven mit der Tzueh. Ich will ihm weisen, wie zu machen Kesher shel Tefillin." Run quickly and call Ruven with the Tzueh. Ruven was the sefer with the Tzueh, with the piece of strap. I want to show him how to make a Kesher. The Alter Rebbe apparently lay down and he saw Mulmayla wie man machen a Kesher. The Alter Rebbe's Kesher for the film, Sai Shal Yad and Sai Shal Rosh, is different than others. This is a story. It's brought from Chassidim. I didn't see it from the Rabbeim, but it's brought from Chassidim. The Alter Rebbe said, "Go call Ruven with the Tzuah. I should show him how to make." Alter Rebbe saw, Moshe Rabbeinu saw Kesher shel Tefillin. So Alter Rebbe says, "Go bring the Tzuah and weisen them machen Kesher shel Tefillin." As they get the mice. In any case, wir soll noch nicht sein. So the Alter Rebbe had this sefer, the Beruven sefer, and he commissioned him once to make him mezuzos. And he sent a shliach to go to the Beruven sefer and to collect the mezuzos. So he comes to the Beruven sefer, and the Beruven sefer gives him a package with the mezuzos for the Alter Rebbe. So the Jew thinks to himself, if it's good for the Rebbe, it's good for me. He says to the Beruven sefer, maybe you could write for me also a few mezuzos. He says, sure. So he writes him a few mezuzos and he sells them to him. So now this Jew is thinking to himself, let me find out if he's an honest man or not. So he switches. He's going to give the Alter Rebbe his mezuzos, and he's going to keep for himself the Alter Rebbe's mezuzos. If he's an honorable man, they're the same mezuzos. And if he's a cheater, he's more frum for the Alter Rebbe than for himself. He'll know right away. He comes to the Alter Rebbe, and he brings the Alter Rebbe the mezuzos. He hands the package to the Alter Rebbe. Alter Rebbe opens the package, looks at the mezuzos, and says, maybe he sent you different mezuzos. Maybe he sent you other mezuzos. Alter Rebbe looks at the mezuzos. Oh, yeah, I made a mistake, Taka. And he changes. Oh, these are my mezuzos. Mamish, that's called Tviyas Hayin. He runs back to this Reuven sefer, who didn't live in Lodz, lived someplace else. He says, you're a cheater, you're a phony. How come you made mezuzos Alter Rebbe better than for me? He says, how do you know? He says, what do you mean, how do I know? I brought them to Alter Rebbe, I switched them around. And the Alter Rebbe right away recognized that it's not the same. You're snita zay kosher, you have something wrong. He says, I promise you, I made the mezuzos just as kosher as Alter Rebbe's. Aber ich weiß nicht für was. Aber der Rebbe will, als seine Mezuzah soll man darf geschreiben, als der Levon ist b'milo. I don't know why, he says, but the Alter Rebbe told me that I should only write his mezuzahs on the 15th day of the month, when the moon is full. And the Alter Rebbe opened up the mezuzahs, and he could see on the klaf, on the ksav, that it was written on the 15th of the month or not. He says, no, these are not my mezuzahs. This is a story. What's the significance of this? I don't know. But this is the story. Anyway, now that we digressed, Baruch Hashem, the 15th of the month is a very, very special inyan. The moon is full, the fullness of Yidden. But the idea that the 15th of the month is special, because I do with Yidden, has two aspects. First of all, that the moon is full. Second of all, that before it wasn't. Right? There was no moon, and then there was a tiny moon, and then it expands until it's full. In other words, the idea that the moon is full is not only special, because Jews are compared to the moon, and when the moon is full, that means that the Jewish people are blessed. It means that the Jewish people were once compromised. They were once not blessed. And now that the moon is full, they achieved blessing. In other words, to use Hasidic Sprach, it's not a fullness of tzaddik, it's a fullness of Baal Tshuva. The comparison between the Jews and the moon is not only that we go towards fullness, but the fact that we were once not full. And we achieved fullness is the Malas of Tshuva. You have to fix, you have to repair something which is no good. So Hasidus says an interessante word, that if you want to know how blessed the full moon is, look how unblessed the days before were. If you want to appreciate how special the fullness of a particular moon is, see what came before. And on that basis, there is no more painful month than Menachem Av, and therefore there's no more fullness than Chamisha BiAv. As I said in the Rebbe Maimer, the famous Maimer from Tafesh Ayin, which the Rebbe brings in a lot of Maimorim, right? That since it follows Tisha BiAv, and Tisha BiAv is the epitome of Yerida, beginning with the generation of the Jews in the desert. Boichel Mishpachaisav, they cried the night of Tisha BiAv, not Boichel Mishpachaisav. Vayev Kam Balayla Hu, the Jewish people cried when the Meraglim returned, and they had no reason to cry. So Abisha says, unfortunately, I'll give you a reason to cry. Since Chamish BiAv follows this Yerid, that's the greatest Aliyah, and this is why Chamish BiAv is such a special day, and it's even compared to Yom Kippur. Right? Yom Kippur within the Matan Torah, the holiest day of the year. There's a comparison made between Chamish BiAv and Yom Kippur, because since it's following such a great Yerida, the Aliyah is so great. And this is also always after, obviously after Tisha BiAv, you're going to have Chamish BiAv. It doesn't always happen that Chamish BiAv is Shabbos Nachamu, right? You forget, if Tisha BiAv is on Shabbos, then Chamish BiAv is Friday. If Tisha BiAv is on Sunday, Chamish BiAv is Shabbos. But Tisha BiAv could also be on Tuesday, and Tisha BiAv could also be on Thursday. When Tisha BiAv is on Tuesday and Tisha BiAv is on Thursday, Chamish BiAv is in Pashas Eikev, is in the week after. But it's always within 7 days of Tisha BiAv, right? That's the story. It's 6 days after Tisha BiAv, Chamish BiAv, and the idea is, since Tisha BiAv is so bad, Chamish BiAv is so special. And this is again connected to the Haftarah, Nachamu Ami. The Eibishter consoles us doubly that after the Yerida there comes a very, very big Aliyah. And let me say this: Kaidam called off Mashiach Tzedkenu, as if Mrs. Minkowitzville. That's the first. With the Shade of Misnazeh, we're expecting Mashiach every minute, and we're not settling for anything less. But in terms of Yiddishkeit, it's the gate a good side. Now is a happy time. We dafka make weddings right after Tisha BiAv. The Alter Rebbe got married at Beis 3 days after Tisha BiAv, the Alter Rebbe got married. He couldn't wait any longer. And we're going to Mishram to Rosh Hashanah and to Aksiv V'Chsima Teva. And next year is Hakil Sa'om Ha'anoshim Ha'anoshim Ha'taf. Right? The Lubavitchers have been brainwashed. Baruch Hashem, right? We're going to a very, very good time. So they to help and there should be Elman Varim, and Lichtik, and Freilach, and all the brachas. And Savkos Avim this Gals from Melech HaMashiach. The Peilish say that Chamish BiAv is with Gematria Ksiva V'Chasima Tova. Right? The Shulchan Aruch says that from Chedesh Elul, from Rosh Chedesh Elul, the meaning by Yidden, when you write a letter, when you meet a person, you mention Ksiva V'Chasima Tova. By the way, it's a good thing to get into the habit. You have 15 days to practice. You have 2 weeks to practice. 2 weeks from Sunday is Rosh Chedesh Elul. You have to understand that when unmentioned at Zweiten Yidden Ksiva V'Chasima Tova from Rosh Chedesh Elul. The Rebbe says from Chafov. And the Polish say from Chamisha BiAv. So it depends how religious you are. But okay, I have a cousin, a Misnagid. A real Misnagid. He can good Lenin, but he's a Misnagid. And he sends his kids to a Chassidish Cheder. And they tell him that Zois Chanukah is the end of the Gmach Sima Tova. His kids come home from Cheder. Says Chanukah to Gmach Sima Tova. You know, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. And he says, listen to me. He says, I don't mind a lot of the Chassidish shtick. My kids come home the beginning of Tavis and they're wishing me Aksiva Chsima Tova. This is a little bit too much for my liking. But you start Chamish BiAv till there's Chanukah to Hal BiAv, Aksiva Chsima Tova. And Ikar is a good tazach. It's a good time. The 3 weeks we talk as little as we could. But it's a good time. The Eibush is in love with the Jewish people. The Eibush to help us Zayin Beis Gals by Yedin in our material lives and all the things that we need. And a good Shabbos and Kol Tov, that's all.